Right, so apparently Chelsea not moving for Joao Pedro, says Ben Jacobs. There are Spanish reports suggesting Hugo Ekitike is a serious target for Chelsea, and in fact, we've made a formal offer. Do we believe them? We'll get into that a little bit. We're going to look at Ekitike. I think his stats are very good. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Also, Football.London and other media platforms, broadcasters are talking about, of course, Cristiano Ronaldo is looking for a temporary club to play in the Club World Cup, to be on that stage. And we know Todd Boehly was desperate to sign Cristiano Ronaldo. We can speak a little bit about that as well. And Ruben Amorim absolutely and brutally said in front of the whole squad that Garnacho is for sale. He told him to find a new club in front of the other teammates. And yes, I'm sorry, he's still being linked to Chelsea. Welcome back!
You ain't so tough with that bad boy tuck. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought.
Yo, what is poppin', friends? How are you doing? Are you okay? Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. As always, friend, I do hope you're doing well. I really do hope that. And yes, we're getting into Chelsea news today like we did earlier. Just want to say a big thank you. The subscribers are gaining momentum on both channels today, but Football Therapy on over 193,000 and 139 to boot. So thank you for joining me as always, and I do really appreciate all the support here on the channel. It's very kind, and it's great. Thanks. Alright, mate, so we are going to get into it. First of all, Ben Jacobs, who speaks with conviction, with his chest, and he said Chelsea are not exploring a deal for Joao Pedro. There are no talks, which some Chelsea fans will have a great deal of relief because he's not a high-profile name. I did a video just this morning about him, saying how, provided he's not the striker signing, I wouldn't mind him. I've always quite liked him as a player, versatile, direct. They originally wanted like 100 million for him, and there was talks of like a 50 million pound deal or something. I genuinely wouldn't have been mad at it at all for a winger. But apparently not, and the likes of Alex Goldberg, friend of mine, who is connected with people in Chelsea circles, did say, look, there has been an inquiry, but it's the same inquiry as we would have done with like 20 other strikers or forwards. More, if you're counting all forwards. There will always be an inquiry asking about the terms, because if they think in the worst case scenario, if we don't get our first X amount of targets, could we make it work with Joao Pedro? And of course, that gets leaked by an agent or by a friend or by a trainer or a nutritionist. And you have these stories. So, yes, some of you may be relieved. I'd be relieved provided it's not the main striker target. But yeah, I'll be consistent. I've got nothing against assigning him as a sort of, a sort of Kiernan Dewsbury Hall and Kunku Chukwuemeka kind of, versatile replacement, because he's a great player. Let's move on. Okay, so this is aggregated across loads of Chelsea news websites. It's got loads of ads, so I'm not going to share it here. But it's the Spanish publication Fichajes. I'm never going to pronounce that right. It's part of the fun. It's essentially talking about Chelsea want to sign Hugo Ekitike, which, of course, he is a confirmed target. The France under-21 Eintracht Frankfurt forward, who is very good, actually. He is very good. Apparently, we're willing to pay up to 80 million euros, which in real money that I understand is 67 million pounds, which he's one of the hot young striker properties. 67 million quid is kind of fine, dare I say. For additional further context, look at this understat page of Hugo Ekitike versus Erling Haaland this season. Of course, Haaland scored more goals, but Ekitike, as this versatile forward, beats Erling Haaland in every other thing. Of course, Haaland is an elite finisher, but you might make an argument that he blunts your attack because he can't get involved. Haaland gets paid £500,000 per week, £500,000 per week. Of course, Ekitike won't be paying that, and the kind of more balanced circle here on this spider graph is what you'd expect for, or what Maresca wants from his striker. Of course, Nicholas Jackson will also be a much more sort of circle, not as good as Haaland, but like, yeah, a sort of balanced striker that can do everything. Again, not as good as Hugo Ekitike here, who of course is being represented by Green. Who else should we try? Kai Havertz maybe. He'll probably have quite a balanced thing. Yeah, you know, these are all high value, high transfer players. Maybe not Nico. We got them for cheap, but they are. Let me talk about Benjamin Sesko. That will be interesting. Let's get Benjamin Sesko up there. Yeah, wow. Hugo Ekitike, man. And they're playing in the same league. And I know Leipzig haven't been, the best, but Leipzig have been consistently finishing above Frankfurt. So, let's respect Hugo Ekitike, man. He is good. What else should we finish with? Liam Delap. We can maybe look at Gyökeres. Liam Delap, bless him. Playing for Ipswich, though. Gyökeres, let's get him in there. Victor. I'm not going to be able to find him, am I? Oh, he's in the Portuguese league. It's only got the top 5 leagues. That'll be why. We won't have Osimhen either, because neither of the Victors that everyone wants, neither of them are playing in the top 5 leagues. All right, whatever. He's really good. Hugo. You can have your own opinions about him, like his profile, his style, his strength, his speed. Will he fit in the Premier League? Fine. I'll be consistent. I want Osimhen. I'd love Osimhen. But I don't want him to break Chelsea's financial structure entirely. I'm concerned there's a reason why no one in Europe's going for him. Of course, there's stories, like I reported on this morning, coming out of Saudi Arabia that are suggesting he's agreed a 3-year deal with Al Hilal. And then, of course, there are other conflicting reports. I wonder if we win tomorrow and we secure Champions League, if the Osimhen stories come back. And look, I pray that they do, because I think he'd be the perfect profile for Chelsea. But there are other good strikers out there also that make Chelsea better, should he just choose Saudi Arabia. Let's move on. All right, so this is a bit of a silly sausage stuff here, silly season. But there is an article here on Football London. I'm reacting to an article. Chelsea could be handed unexpected Cristiano Ronaldo meeting. And it's coming from that, I'm not going to swear, person, Infantino, on iShow Speed stream. But he's saying what we already knew from mainstream media, that Cristiano Ronaldo is looking for a club to play in the Club World Cup for. So maybe it's a short-term contract. And then if he doesn't want to retire afterwards, he can go to Turkey or something. I'm sure they'd take him in his early 40s because he's in good physical nick, isn't he? I don't think he can play in like the Premier League because he's just, even if he's an amazing finisher or whatever, it's just like, let's be real here. He's been in the same way. I think it's a disgrace how England have called up Tony, who's 29 or something, from the Saudi league. The only exception I make is N'Golo Kante. Didier Deschamps calling up Kante for a couple of camps because it's N'Golo Kante and he was still young enough, and But let's just, for the sake of it, for this theoretical thought exercise, and I'm purely only playing this game because I know Todd Boehly, who by the way has made up and is now friends with Boehly of Clear Lake again. They're all hashtag mates again. We know Todd Boehly wants the marquee signings. He wanted to bring like Galactico names to Chelsea, and maybe he learned over time that the landscape of football's changed, the PSR rules, and there's value in this long-term project 2030 with the young players. And I think by all accounts he's on board, but still he'd probably like to bring the odd big name. Ronaldo is of course iconic for my money. I do prefer Messi. I've been obvious, very clear about that. But of course, he's been amazing, Ronaldo. I'm not a guy who preferences Messi, who thinks Ronaldo's a terrible footballer, who stat pads. This weird culture war where if you prefer one, you have to say the other one's really bad or attack them or something like that. I wouldn't be against it because it's the Club World Cup. He'd serve loads of shirts. It will be. Let's be real. The club, we want to win the Club World Cup, of course. We want to do well in it, but until it's been established, it's got this kind of circusy vibe. And Ronaldo bowling up in a Chelsea shirt would just be funny. It would be absolute theatre and box office. It would be cinema. Obviously, we'd have to pay him insane money, but it would be this would not be in it wouldn't be a breach of the wage structure because you'd be giving him a month contract or whatever. So it would be like, yeah, just let everyone watch Chelsea because Ronaldo's playing the Club World Cup. If anything, it might undermine the competition because it's not going to be Chelsea's actual philosophy system. It would just be like vibes in Ronaldo, but I'm here for it. It'll be funny. Would it happen? There is another Saudi team that's in it. There's obviously MLS teams. South American teams, maybe. But Chelsea, especially if we win the Champions League, we might have a little bit of money, an extra bit of cash to just be like, all right, we'll give you 2 million to play for Chelsea in the Club World Cup, and we'll sell a bunch of shirts as well. I don't know. What do you think? Right. Look, there's an article by David Ornstein that came out today. Here, my green screen isn't fully done. I was going to deal with it. Ruben Amorim informs United squad he's staying. He's in like the gaffer's staying, but he tells Garnacho to find a new club. Amorim has informed his squad he will remain in charge next season while telling Garnacho to find a new club following Wednesday's Europa League final defeat by Tottenham Hotspur. So yeah, Garnacho probably won't play against Villa, I guess, and if he's done. The Portuguese head coach offered to walk away. I remember that. He was like, I'll leave if I'm not wanted. He has repeatedly insisted he will not quit despite United starting despite them being awful. Sources with top knowledge of the matter, speaking anonymously to protect their relationships, indicate Amorim addressed the players at the club's Carrington training ground on Saturday, that's today, to inform them of his plans in front of the group of those for Garnacho. So Manchester United treat dressing room matters as private and decline to comment. But the source essentially said, in front of the group, he's like, guys, I'm staying. You, knobhead, go find a new club. Now let's talk about Chelsea. I don't feel bad for him because I do kind of feel bad for him because he's 20 years old. He's not long not being a teenager. And when you're a kid, often you can, like, to Chelsea's immense credit, the Cobham graduates are really well-grounded young men and have been, like, integrated into society with, like, a humble attitude and, you know, this, that, and the other. So, yeah. But Garnacho, I did look at his numbers. His stats are pretty darn strong in certain metrics. He's an ultimate wild card. He came on in the final against Tottenham and looked like the most threatening player on the pitch. He's constantly an outlet. He's constantly a wild card. He's got a big pair of cojones on him. Like, I always say, like, we haven't got a player, apart from Nkunku who's leaving, we haven't got a player who will try an overhead kick. And that's such a weird thing to say, but I think it really does say a lot. Like, the audacity, the grace, the lack of care for your body to just go and do something crazy like that. And, oh my God, this is not me saying we should sign Alejandro Garnacho. And I totally understand why the Chelsea fan base will be very upset with that. But I'm just saying, I think maybe he's a better player than a lot of people say. You know, well, look at the body of evidence. Apart from Sancho, who's been pretty meh for Chelsea. I mean, he's had a few moments, and maybe his form suffered when Chelsea's form suffered. A lot of Chelsea fans would be happy to keep Garnacho for the cheap price he'll cost. But Anthony, Betis, really good. Rashford, you know, really good. I mean, look at Scott McTominay. And by the way, just on that, he played an absolute blinder. He won the FA Cup for his boyhood club against Manchester City, the champions, in a Manc derby. He beat them, lifted the FA Cup, and was like, all right, see you later, guys. I'm off to win the Scudetto with Napoli and win the MVP award, the best player in the league. Absolute blinder. But then you get Scott McTominay, pick a Man United player that's left and been better. Genuinely, would you be surprised if Garnacho, Højlund, who was like, we were looking at Højlund for ages, if these players leave United and suddenly perform a lot better? Would you be surprised? Almost certainly not. Now, look, I'm not saying I want us to buy a great striker or any striker. I'd love Osimhen. I'd really like Ekitike. I'd be relatively pleased with Delap because I've seen how he operates in the Prem, and he's just he's a big problem against defenders in a way that often Nico Jackson isn't. And I do think we need extra cover on the wing. And I know, again, even if it's preferred over Garnacho, I know it's not a popular name, but I do quite like Jamie Gittins in terms of profiling. It's tough, isn't it? Because we want dopamine hits, don't we? We want like the big names and the big transfer fees and the big wages, and then we're allowed to have the big expectations. Like, that's the sort of philosophical thing there, isn't it? But if we go into next season, we've got another striker who can push Jackson. Jackson's no longer undroppable, and he'll learn that. Another striker, another right-footed, left-sided player. Like, just say Jamie Gittins. Let's just say Jamie Gittins. Let's say Hugo. I was going to say middle of the road, but he's still quite expensive. But his wages won't be insane. Let's just say Hugo Ekitike, Jamie Gittins, Santos in the midfield, a goalkeeper like Georgie Petrovic and Santos returning, and then we can spend money on, say, like a Mark Gurhey at the back, a new leader. To be honest, that alone's pretty naughty. And then you sell like your Nkunkus, your Sterlings, your Dewsbury Halls, and you see a bit more from a Chiampong and Tariq George, and who knows, maybe Raksaki comes through and plays well, and if we do need to buy an extra player in January, it might be enough for us. I know we all want big sexy names, and maybe one will come, but it's certainly interesting, isn't it? But I'll tell you one thing's for sure. I will be covering and reacting to every story here on Football Therapy. So if you do choose to subscribe, make sure you press the bell notifications icon so you don't miss a beat, my friend. All right. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you after the game tomorrow. Peace.